during his ministry, Jesus and his followers probably had some very difficult days. Jesus was dealing with a band of people that really were not well educated, and I'm sure they struggled to understand who he was and what his work was all about. So there were many times, I believe, that Jesus would seek out the comfort of those who loved him. So let's picture one day when they'd had a couple of very difficult moments, and Jesus decided to take them, all of his followers with him, to Bethany to visit his old friends. So they come up to the outskirts of Bethany, and Jesus stops. And he waits for the greeting he knows will come. And here it is. She runs right through the square. Mary of Bethany, Lazarus' little sister. She comes flying in and she says, "You are here! You are here! Thank goodness you are here! I'm so happy!" And Jesus gives her a smile as that of a brother, seeing a beloved sister after many months. And Mary said, "Please, please come with me. I'll show you where our house is." And as the group begins to progress toward the home of Lazarus, Martha, her sister, is in the window, and she's looking out and she's saying, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's more than 15 of them. Oh my goodness. And she begins to fuss with the cushions and rearrange the furniture and check to make sure that she has every bit of food she needs to be of hospitality to these fine guests that are coming. And Jesus comes in the door, beloved friend, and he says, "Why is my Martha hiding here in the house?" And she said, "My Lord, I am glad that you are here, and I am so sorry for the state of my house." And Jesus looks around and said, "Martha, it is fine." Oh, yes, said Martha. And just then Lazarus comes in, and the two men throw their arms around each other and begin to banter back and forth, just as they did when they were young. And Martha says, well, what can I get you? Olives or water or wine or nuts? Jesus said, olives, water, wine. Why not all three? Knowing as he says so, that it will make Martha so happy to offer the best of what she has prepared. And Jesus says, well, let's all go in. And Martha and Mary conduct them to their main room. And everyone settles on cushions and couches. And young Mary goes to sit at the foot of Jesus. And while her brother and Jesus talk back and forth, Mary watches every word. She doesn't move an inch. Meanwhile, Martha goes right to the kitchen, comes out with an entire tray of wine, and begins to try and pass it around. And she notices that Mary is hanging on Jesus' every word. And she doesn't understand why her sister doesn't jump right up and help her. So as she passes it around, she's trying to catch Mary's attention, to nudge her to help. But it wasn't working. So Martha goes back to the kitchen, and when she gets there, she pulls the loaves of bread hot out of the oven, and she plates the food, placing the dates just so, and drizzling the honey that will make that dish taste so sweet. And she comes out of the kitchen with the first few plates full of food and begins to serve those closest to the door. And again, she tries to catch her sister's eye. And Mary is oblivious, because Lazarus had been telling Jesus about the status of his vineyard. And Jesus said, well, that reminds me of a story. And he begins to tell the parable of the vineyards, of the vineyard owner and his people. And as he does so, Martha hands things out, and she tries to get Mary's attention. But then Martha went forward with the plate of food for Jesus. And Jesus takes it and says, this looks wonderful. And Martha says, it would have been better if I had some help. And she thinks to herself, there is my sister sitting over there. Who does she think she is? She's sitting there like the Queen of Egypt, while I'm running around trying to take care of on here? Doesn't she see we have all of this to do? Can't she notice that I am running around doing all the work? Why am I always left with all the hard work? But she doesn't say this. She says to Jesus, it would have been better if I'd had some help. Better, says Jesus. Yes, better, says Martha. More of what you deserve. And Jesus says, Martha, I don't understand. And then it all comes spilling out. And Martha says, it would have been better if my sister had come and helped me, because you are such an important teacher. We should have made sure that everything was perfect. And I don't think my sister will ever notice that I'm running around here doing all the work unless you, sir, were to tell her to come and help me. Mary's face blushes bright red in shame. And Martha suddenly realizes that she has humiliated not only herself, but her sister, and has said far too much. And Jesus says, Martha, Martha, please do not worry yourself. Come. And Martha said, no, I have to go back to the kitchen. And Jesus takes her hand and insists she sit next to him. And he says, Martha, I am grateful for all you have done. Hospitality is very important, and I'm grateful for all of your efforts today. But your sister Mary is sitting here trying to hear every word that I am saying. She has chosen the greater portion, and it will not be taken from her. Martha's face, full of confusion, she says, take it? Yes, said Jesus patiently. Mary sits here at my feet to hear the words, my words, which will never pass away, unlike the food and the clothing and all here, which will pass away in time. Mary has chosen to listen to my words of life, and she has chosen to devour them as a meal more nourishing than any food you could eat. And comprehension begins to dawn on Martha's face. And Jesus says, but please, you should not be embarrassed. What you have done is very, very important, but I want you to listen to this. Do not be distracted by tasks here on earth, for you see, what is most important is that you spend time with me and my followers while I am here, so that we can learn together. And Mary, she could have helped a little bit. And with that, they all laugh. And Martha looks at Mary with a face full of forgiveness. And Mary looks at her sister with love. And Mary slips out and slides in next to Martha, and she whispers, I'm so sorry. And Martha says, I'm sorry too. And Jesus said, well, now that we have all gotten the lesson, let's just eat Martha's wonderful food and stop wasting our time. So a few of the men go into the kitchen, gather up the rest of the food, and pass it around. And Jesus says, this is what I am about. The sharing of a meal, both spiritual and corporal. And the sisters came together in love. Isn't that just the way of families? Two sisters from the same family, very different emotions, very different personalities, but all beloved in the sight